The Emerald Isle calls to millions of us. We have the inward pull back to the land of our ancestors, to walk where they walk and see what they saw. While Ireland remains at the top of most of our travel bucket list, a very small percentage of us get the opportunity to actually go. If you are one of the lucky ones that get to make the journey, how will you know what to schedule to see? If you're one of the millions that will likely never make the journey, chances are that you still are interested in what Ireland has to offer. To either crowd, this video should be very informative to you. Many of you remember Casey Kasum's Top 40 Music Countdown. This is our Top 40 countdown of things that you must see in Ireland. Hey everybody, this is Colonel Carson with Family Tree Nuts, and recently we visited Ireland and took in the sights and made this list. It should be mentioned that most of the sites are historic places and many modern highlights of Ireland have been left out. It should also be mentioned that this list could have been in the thousands, but we tried to limit them to the absolute best. Bear in mind, this is our list. We're a team of historians and genealogists, and you may totally disagree with the way that we've ranked them. So be sure to leave a comment below of how you would have changed these up a bit, or tell us what we left out. I guess I should also state that this list is Ireland only and does not include sites in Northern Ireland, which is part of the United Kingdom. By the way, if you like videos like this, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Most of our videos are at historic sites all over the United States, but we do have several in a few countries. This video is one of several that we have from Ireland, so be sure to check out our Ireland playlist. Also, many of these sites in this list have their own video with a tremendous amount of more information and views of the sites. Be sure to check them out as well. Oh, I forgot to tell you, this video has a little bit of a surprise ending, so you will want to hang in till the end for the surprise. Okay, enough Blarney, and on to our top 40. Number 40, the Oscar Wilde and Eduard Vilde statue. Oscar Wilde was a famous Irish poet and playwright that was controversial to some and genius to others. Eduard Vilde was an Estonian writer and diplomat. An Estonian artist created this statue in 1999 while imagining what the two great innovators with similar names would have said to each other if they ever met, even though they never did. This statue is a replica of the one in Estonia and was a gift to Galway when Estonia joined the European Union in 2004. Number 39, the Fisheries Watchtower Museum. This museum is said to be the smallest museum in Ireland and holds the artifacts and memorabilia pertaining to the important fishing industry in Galway. The building was built in 1853 and used as a watchtower to illegal fishing on the River Korb. Its uniqueness makes it a must-see when traveling across the Wolftown Bridge on your way to Claddagh. Number 38, Lynchs Castle. One of the most preserved buildings in Galway that has survived since medieval times is the Tower of Lynchs Castle, which was built in the 1500s. The castle was home to the Blakes, one of the 14 ruling merchant tribes of medieval times. The castle sits near the Wolftown Bridge on the River Korb and across from the Aaron Sweater Market. This spot is not only a very historic spot in Galway, it is one of the most picturesque locations to see down a street where the ancient world meets the modern world. This castle is not to be confused with the ruins of Menlo Castle, which is in the county and sometimes referred to as Lynchs Castle also. Number 37, the jewelry shops. Celtic jewelry is popular all over the world, especially for those of us with Celtic heritage. Ireland is known for its amazing jewelry stores that have tremendous personality. Many of the shops have individuals who make them, or at least modify the jewelry in-house. Some of these stores have been around longer than the United States has been a country, and that personally makes it an amazing memory to make your selection here. Some of these stores have had very well-known regular customers. Number 36, the English Market. The English Market is a famous fresh food market in Cork. The market is called the English market because at the time of its founding in the 1800s, it was used for Protestants only and was separate from St. Peter's Market, which was for Catholics. There has been a market on this site since at least 1788, and it is known for its variety of fresh fish and vegetables. The market also houses restaurants that get their food daily from the market. I also want to mention that catty corner to the English market is a restaurant called Hillbillies that serves, you guessed it, fried chicken. The fact that I live in Kentucky made the name of this restaurant quite amusing to me. Number 35, the River Korb. It is hard to understand Galway without understanding the River Korb's influence on the city. Galway sits at the mouth of the river where it empties into Galway Bay in the Atlantic Ocean. The name Korb is an anglicized version of an Irish word for the god of the sea. The river has also been called, which is pronounced Galway in English, and where the city got its name. It's one of the shortest rivers in Ireland, being less than 4 miles long, beginning at Loch Corrib before it empties into Galway Bay. 4 bridges in Galway cross the Corrib, and it is a natural divider of sections of the town. It is a quite popular spot for salmon fishing, and today is popular with kayakers. Number 34, the River Lee. The River Lee is the most important waterway in Cork, which is the second largest city in the Republic of Ireland. It is 56 miles long and empties into Cork Harbour and then into the Celtic Sea. The river is crossed by 29 bridges in Cork City, and an interesting fact is that the city was once full of interconnected canals that enter into the River Lee. Most of the canals are now covered with buildings, but you can still see some of them in places. Number 33, the River Shannon. The River Shannon is one of the most important waterways in Ireland, and it is the longest river in the British Isles at 224 miles. The river divides West Ireland from the east and the south, and it is named for the Celtic goddess Siona, who was the keeper of wisdom. The Grand Canal was built in the 1700s, which connected the River Shannon to the River Liffey, which flows into Dublin, thus connecting east with the west of Ireland. The River Shannon has been an important part of Ireland since the dawn of Irish civilization. Number 32, the River Liffey. The River Liffey's name in Gaelic literally means "and life," and that's exactly what it has been to the city of Dublin throughout all history. The river runs about 82 miles in eastern Ireland, and it is fed by the rivers Dodder, Poddle, and Camac until it flows into Dublin Bay in the Irish Sea. Since Dublin's founding, the river has been its source of drinking water and supply for hundreds of breweries and distilleries over the centuries. It has been the most important shipping highway, not only to the ships in the bay, but also around the city and upriver. As with all major cities, the river has often had issues with pollution and has sometimes been referred to by the locals as the Sniffy Liffey because of its foul odor. However, I should also mention that the city of Dublin takes great pride in the cleanliness of its important river. Today, dozens of iconic bridges cross the river, used by both vehicles and foot traffic, and walking along and across this historically important river is definitely a must-do for any visitor to Dublin. Number 31, medieval art and decorations on buildings. As with all countries in Europe, Ireland's cities are centuries old. In the old section of Galway, you will find all things modern world mixed with medieval time architecture and art. Many of the buildings have family crests, decorations, and writings that are as much as 800 years old. It is an amazing mix of the ancient world mixed with modern times. Number 30, the Buskers. While buskers exist all over the world's cities, Galway is specifically known for its variety and quality of them. People come from all over the world to busk on the streets of Galway. You can find buskers that range from a 10-piece band to a more common individual. The city does have rules in place to keep down the congregation of crowds, and buskers must have at least 20 songs in order to get a license to perform. Here is a busker in Galway singing one of my favorite Celtic songs.
So let me tell you that I love you, and I can't tell you all the time. And I know I'm coming, not going on. If we should become a stranger, you know that it would make me call you. And I know I've been everything I ever knew. And I know that I've been everything I ever had. And I know that I've been everything I ever had. Thank you.
Number 29, the Hall of the Red Earl. In Galway, you can visit the ruins of the Hall of the Red Earl, who was the head of the ruling De Burgh family until they were ran out of power by the 14 tribes. These ruins were part of the foundation of a building that was built in the 1200s and used as a municipal building or custom house. It had disappeared from history by being covered up by modern buildings until it was discovered in 1997. Today, you can at any time pass down Druid Lane and see the ancient remains of the castle from behind glass walls. Number 28, castle ruins inside the famous Éireann Sweater Market. The Éireann Sweater Market is famous in its own right and offers a variety of woolen sweaters, clothing, blankets, and hats. But during a remodeling project in 2017, it was discovered that under the building sat the ruins of the first castle in Galway. The castle was built in 1232 by the De Burgh family. The ruins are now visible on the floor at the cash register counter of the store. Number 27, the CLATA Museum. The Claddagh ring has become part of Irish culture, and you can learn all about its history and symbolism in Galway's Thomas Dillon and Sons jewelry store, which was founded in 1750 and has reportedly produced the iconic ring since its beginnings. This little museum is jam-packed full of history related to the ring and has several rare and valuable Claddagh rings on display. Number 26, Lynchs Castle. Lynchs Castle was built in the 1500s and is touted as being the finest 16th century tower house in Ireland. The castle was home to the Lynch family, which were one of the 14 ruling merchant tribes of Galway. One story about the Lynch family was in 1493 when James Lynch Fitzstephen was mayor of Galway. His son was convicted of murdering a Spanish sailor. Upon his conviction, Mayor Lynch hung his son outside a window for all to see. This is said to be where the word lynch or lynched comes from. The castle was decorated with crests of the family and a carving of a monkey with a baby. It is said that one time during a fire, a baby of the family was rescued from the house by the pet monkey, and the family commemorated the fortuitous event with the carving. The castle is now an AIB bank. Number 25, the Galway Mall. It is odd to find a visit to a modern mall on the list of the top historic places of an area, but the Galway Mall was no ordinary mall. Inside, among the modern stores, is a section of the original city wall that was built between the years 1250 and 1270 that encircled the town for its protection. When the mall was built in the year 2000, This section of the almost 800-year-old medieval wall was saved and protected inside the mall for us all to marvel at. Seeing a structure with so much history inside a shopping mall is something that is hard for us in the United States to fathom. Number 24, Ayr Square. Ayr Square is the center of activity for the city of Galway. This spot has been an open area since the early days of the city and served as a town green used for livestock grazing or a gathering place. Ayr Square is sometimes called John F. Kennedy Park because JFK visited the square and gave a speech on June 29, 1963, and was the first president to do so during his term of office. A monument commemorating the event sits on the edge of the square. Ayr Square is home to several attractions throughout the park, one of which is the fountain with the metal artwork of the Galway hookers, which are the fishing ships that have been so important to the city's economy. Another attraction of note is the Liam Malone statue, who was one of the heroes of Ireland's War of Independence. Near the center of the park is the statue of Patricks Cathedral, the author so important to the rebirth of the Irish language. In the front of the square, you will find the brown doorway. The doorway was built in 1627 and used to be the front of the Brown Mansion, one of the 14 ruling merchant families of Galway. The door was moved to Ayr Square in 1905 and used as an example of the elaborate architecture of the city in medieval times. Also, in the front of the square, you will find banners flying for each of the 14 merchant tribes of Galway that played such an important role in the city for over 500 years. It is easy to see why Ayr Square has certainly been one of the most important spots in Galway since its beginnings. Number 23, Phoenix Park. It is said that Phoenix Park is where Dublin goes to breathe. The park is 1,750 acres large and was first set aside in the 1660s as a royal hunting park. The park still has a large herd of wild deer that call it home. It is also the home of several famous and important landmarks, such as the Dublin Zoo, the United States Embassy, Ireland's President's Home, and the Magazine Fort. The park also proudly houses important monuments. The most notable is the Wellington Monument, which is a 203-foot tall obelisk that commemorates the Duke of Wellington's military victories, including his defeat of Napoleon Bonaparte at the Battle of Waterloo. This monument can be seen at many points around the city. Another important landmark in the park is the Papal Cross, which is a 115-foot high cross on the top of a mound surrounding an open 15 acres. The cross stands on the spot where Pope John Paul II conducted an open outdoor mass on September 29, 1979 for over 1 million people who had gathered. The park is open 24 hours a day and 365 days a year and is certainly a must-see when you visit Dublin. Number 22, Dublin City Hall. This historic building was built in 1779 and served as the Royal Exchange. It began to be used as City Hall in 1852 and remains in use today. What makes this site important enough to make this list is the action that took place here in the 1916 Easter Rising, which was the beginning of what eventually led to Irish independence. A group of the Irish Citizen Army, otherwise known as the ICA, under the command of Captain Sean Conley, attacked the British government at Dublin Castle. The group shot and killed Dublin Metropolitan Police Officer James O'Brien and took the guardhouse, but were not able to take the whole facility and were forced to retreat back to City Hall. Upon fortifying the building, Captain Conley was on the rooftop when he was shot dead by a British sniper. He was the first rebel to die in the 1916 Easter Rising. A few hours later, second in command, Lieutenant Sean O'Reilly was killed by machine gun fire attempting to get off the roof through a skylight. Another of the ICA men to die that day was George Geoghegan, who was a British Army veteran of the Second Boer War in South Africa. George was shot in the head early in the fighting. The final man killed here was Lewis Byrne, who was one of the reinforcements sent to City Hall by the rebel headquarters at the General Post Office. Visiting the site of the first rebels killed in the 1916 Easter Rising is quite a sobering experience. Number 21, the King's Head. The King's Head Tavern and Restaurant in Galway is one of the most unique spots anywhere. The building is over 800 years old and was once home of the Mayor of Galway, Thomas Lynchs Fitzambrose, until it was seized in 1653 during Galway's surrender to Colonel Peter Stubbers, who was one of Oliver Cromwell's men. Colonel Stubbers was said to be the man who beheaded the Catholic King Charles I a few years earlier in 1649. The king had been condemned to death, but no one was brave enough to actually do the execution until Colonel Stubbers stepped up and took on the gruesome task. Number 20, Galway's Kierans Lane. Kierans Lane is a small stretch of road that is almost untouched from medieval times, and its architecture is from the 1500s. The lane was inside the old medieval walls of the city and named after the Kieran family, who was one of the 14 ruling merchant tribes of Galway. The lane is the site of the famous 1700s Martin Theatre, where the patriot Theobald Wolfetone once performed. Walking down Kierans Lane, you can really imagine that you are back in time. Number 19, Boone Ratty Castle. Boone Ratty Castle is an impressive tower house castle that was built in the 1500s in County Clare. Its name in Irish means mouth of the Ratty due to its location on the River Ratty. Fortresses have been here since the time of the Vikings due to its strategic spot. The castle has a historic, interpretive village around it, and the castle was used for drama dinners similar to what we would see at medieval times here in the United States. The castle was one of the most perfect spots for photos of a castle in all of Ireland. Number 18, the Molly Malone statue. Anyone of Irish descent worth their salt is familiar with this song. In Dublin's fair city, where the girls are so pretty, I first set my eyes on sweet Molly Malone. Sing along with me. Just kidding. I know how awful I sound, but I'm too Irish to care. The Molly Malone statue sits in front of the old St. Andrew's Church, which is now used as the Tourist Information Office. Some say Molly Malone is a fictional character and a representative of a group of women in Dublin in the 1600s called fishwives. Fishwives were the wives or daughters of a fisherman. These women were said to be gruff, unpolished, and foul-mouthed. I think you're getting the picture, and perhaps you're thinking of some women that you know today that fit that same description. Molly was a hawker, or a monger, which was someone who sold things from a cart on the streets. Hawkers and mongers of the time were often known to work a different trade on the streets at night, but our Molly is said to be one of the few that maintained her chastity and dignity. The legend says that Molly sadly died of a fever at a young age. While some maintain that Molly Malone is a symbolic character, others say that she was a real person. In fact, in the Dublin records there was found a woman named Molly Malone that died on June 13, 1699. There is no evidence that this particular Molly Malone is the one whom the song was written for, but in 1988, the year of the 1000th anniversary of Dublin, June 13th was declared as Molly Malone Day. The holiday has been celebrated in Dublin on each June 13th since. Perhaps you will now celebrate Molly Malone Day too. Supposedly, it's good luck to touch her left breast. Or is it her right breast? Perhaps you should just touch them both to be safe. Be sure to see our individual video from here. Number 17, St. Nicholas's Collegiate Church. One of the most beautiful historic buildings in Galway is St. Nicholas's Collegiate Church, which was built in 1320, over 700 years ago. The church is dedicated to St. Nicholas of Myra, the patron saint of seafarers, archers, repentant thieves, brewers, pawnbrokers, unmarried people, students, and of course, children. St. Nicholas was known for his secret gift giving, and that led to the tradition of St. Nick, or as we know him, Santa Claus. So, in a roundabout way, I suppose you could say that this is the church of Santa Claus. Like any churches from medieval times, the church has played a large role in the history and the politics of the city. It is said that when Christopher Columbus visited Galway, he worshipped at this church. The architecture is amazing to look at, and folks gather in its yard to socialize or have their lunch. By the way, the sign posted states that antisocial behavior is forbidden, so perhaps you should make sure you kiss the Blarney Stone before you visit Galway. Outside the church fence, the Galway market at St. Nicholas's Church is held. Here you will find stalls with vendors selling food, crafts, art, and other trinkets of interest. Number 16, the Spanish Arch and Christopher Columbus Monument. The Spanish Arch is one of the last remaining sections of the old medieval wall that surrounded Galway. The arch was part of the extension of the original walls and was built in 1584 and a defensive structure to defend the city from raids. When it was built, the River Korb ran all the way up to the arch, and it was damaged by a tsunami that followed the Lisbon earthquake in 1755. It is amazing to imagine all that this section of wall has seen, and by passing through here, you are doing something that untold others have done for centuries. Outside the Spanish Arch is the statue to Christopher Columbus that states, "On these shores around 1477, the Genoese sailor Cristoforo Colombo found sure signs of land beyond the Atlantic." The statue was donated by the city of Genoa, Italy in 1992, the 500-year anniversary of Columbus's famous voyage, to celebrate the piece of Columbus's story that the city of Galway has. Also, outside the Spanish Arch is a small concrete obelisk with a marker that states, "The Galway Democratic Republic was declared on October the 4th at this spot." I'll let you do some research to figure out what that is. I must admit that while filming at this arch, I backed into this monument and fell completely over it and landed on my shoulder in front of a large crowd. Now that's a memory that will stick with me. Number 15, the Temple Bar District. If you ask anyone what is one thing that comes to mind when they think of Irish culture, and undoubtedly one of the first things that they will say is an Irish pub. Dublin's Temple Bar District is by far the premier spot in the world to enjoy a pint, share in the crack, and take in some of the wonderful songs of our heritage. The area was originally established in the early 1600s as a suburb outside the city's walls along the River Liffey. The area is thought to be named after Sir William Temple, who was once a leading advisor to King Charles II. Temple built a house and gardens in the area in the early 1600s. Today the area is home to dozens of iconic Irish pubs, which are always packed, no matter the day or even the time of day. The world-famous Temple Bar was founded in 1840 and is the obvious anchor of the area and a must-visit when coming to Dublin. I'd also be amiss if I didn't mention that there was a restaurant next to the Temple Bar called The Shack, where we had the best fish and chips of our lives. No exaggeration. Don't forget to try one of their baby Guinnesses. You shouldn't be alarmed if the Temple Bar itself is too packed. There are plenty of places to find the perfect Irish environment that we all look for when coming to Ireland. The crowds are always cheerful and the moods are lively. When it's time to finally head to bed, you can take in some beautiful lights on the River Liffey. Number 14, the Brazen Head. Since we are on the topic of Irish pubs, one should not miss a chance to visit what is said to be the oldest pub in Ireland, the Brazen Head. It is hard to wrap our heads around it, but this pub was founded in the year 1198. That's right, 1198. The pub sits on a small area where the original city of Dublin began. Just outside its door is where the first bridge across the River Liffey once stood. The pub has served as a tavern and a hotel over the centuries, and the ambiance is hard to beat. The walls are decorated with Irish history, and you can even leave something behind to say you were there. Be sure to grab you a t-shirt from here too, because if you're going to try to achieve your goal of attending all the pubs in Ireland, you may as well start with the oldest. Number 13, Galway City Museum. The Galway City Museum sits on one of the most historic spots in the city, just inside the Spanish Arch, overlooking the Claddagh across the River Korb. The current museum, which was built in 2007, houses 3 floors of detailed regional and Irish history. Its main exhibits showcase several subjects, which include ancient regional history, the Celts who settled the area, and their culture and customs. The Irish struggle for independence in the early 1900s. The Claddagh. And the maritime history and marine biology of the area. The museum has walls with full-length glass looking over the Claddagh and the Spanish Arch. Be sure to see our individual video from here as well. Number 12, Dublin Castle. Dublin Castle has been called the nerve center of historical power in Ireland. A place of military defense has been on this site since at least the time of the Vikings, over 1,000 years ago. The castle began to be constructed in the year 1204, over 800 years ago, on the orders of King John of England. Yes, that King John, the brother of King Richard the Lionhearted and of Robin Hood fame. He's also the same King John who signed the Magna Carta. This castle is that old. The castle served as the seat of government for the Irish Viceroy, who was the representative of the ruling King of England and later Great Britain from 1204 until 1922, when the control was turned over to an independent Republic of Ireland. The castle and courtyard held government buildings, and its rooms and courtyard have been used for elaborate balls and ceremonies. As I mentioned earlier, the castle also played a large role in the 1916 Easter Rising. You may be surprised to hear the connections that Dracula has in common with this castle. The author and creator of Dracula, Bram Stoker, worked as a clerk of inspection at Dublin Castle, and his father worked here for over 50 years. Finally, the castle was the scene of the 1907 theft of the valuable diamond chains of the office of the Knights of St. Patrick, sometimes called the Irish Crown Jewels. The crime has never been solved, and the jewels have never been found, so if you have Irish ancestors, it may be worth looking through Grandma's attic. Be sure to see our individual video from here as well. Number 11, the Viking Arch. What is cooler than passing through a gate that was built by Vikings? Just a stone's throw away from the Brazen Head is the St. Owen's Church, which was built in the year 1300. Outside of the church is a park, and on the border of the park is the last remaining section of the city's wall that is said to have been built around the year 1100. Here you will see the last remaining gate of the old city walls. Some say this arch is even older than the walls and was standing here when Dublin was still controlled by Viking settlers, making it the last thing standing that was built by the foreign invaders. Be sure to use your imagination of all the people through the centuries that passed right under this arch, just like you can. We're now on to the top 10. Number 10, the pub of your choice. Anywhere in Ireland, the local pub will always be the place to go to see the culture of the area. It is said that Ireland has over 10,000 pubs, so you better get up early if you're going to try to hit them all. Many of the pubs are centuries old, and that comes with a tremendous amount of individual character. Ireland's pubs are known for having sing-alongs and traditional Irish music, and that is something most of us are looking for when we visit Ireland. Number 9, Jameson's Bow Street Distillery. It is said that God invented whiskey so the Irish would never rule the world. The word whiskey comes from the Gaelic word that means water of life, so it is easy to understand how perfect the words Irish and whiskey sound together. Jameson is the most popular Irish whiskey in the world, and you won't want to miss visiting the Bow Street Distillery. The site opened in 1780, and even though the product is no longer produced here, you will learn all about the long and awesome history the company has had. The Jameson family not only oversaw the whiskey business, but were also leaders in the community, including being High Sheriff of County Dublin. Here you can take a tour that covers the history of Jameson, how it is produced, how the process has evolved, and of course, enjoy a sampling while learning about the different products that Jameson produces. Of course, at the end of the visit, you are welcome to visit the bar, decorated with the emerald bottles. Be sure to see our individual video from here as well. Number 8, Guinness Storehouse at St. James's Gate Distillery. If you ask anyone what is a product that is produced in Ireland, almost everyone will first mention Guinness. Even the company's trademark harp became the insignia of Ireland when it earned its independence in 1922. It is not only a staple of any Irish parade or festival all over the world, but is also a staple of the Irish people as well. Guinness has been labeled as the #1 beverage in all of Ireland, and you would be hard-pressed to find even a small town where you couldn't grab a pint in a matter of minutes. Guinness's association with Ireland is why you definitely won't want to miss visiting the Guinness Storehouse. Arthur Guinness rented this place in 1759 on a 9,000-year lease at £45 a year, and here it is today. When you visit the location, you can go on a self-guided tour to learn all about the company's history and how it's made. Guinness has always been famous for its advertising campaigns that involve catchy jingles such as "My goodness, my Guinness," and humorous situations with animals and people. Here you can literally get your face drawn on a foam head of a pint. How cool is that? At the end of the tour is one of the most popular spots in Dublin, the 360-degree gravity bar. Surrounded by glass and 7 stories high, you can see amazing views of the city, Historical information is on the glass about things you're looking at. Being able to see the city in such a way that only birds could makes this stop a must when visiting Dublin. Be sure to see our individual video from here as well. Number 7, Trinity College. Trinity College was founded in 1592 by Queen Elizabeth I and until modern times was for Protestants only. Trinity College is also referred to as the University of Dublin and was modeled after England's Oxford and Cambridge universities. Since its founding, Trinity has been at the center of Ireland's history and politics, and to this day continues as one of the most elite universities in the world. The college is home to several items of Irish pride. One of those items is the Brian Boru harp, which is the oldest surviving Irish harp and the insignia of Ireland. It was once mistakenly linked with Brian Boru, the High King of Ireland, who was killed in the year 1014 at the Battle of Clontarf in modern-day Dublin. Also on display is one of the last remaining copies of the 1916 Proclamation of the Irish Republic. This copy was posted to the wall of the General Post Office at the start of the 1916 Easter Rising, which eventually led to Ireland's independence from Great Britain. Both the Brian Boru harp and the 1916 Proclamation of the Irish Republic are on display in the Long Room. The Long Room, which is also called Trinity College's Old Library Building, was founded in 1732 and is still in use to this day. The library is 65 meters long, making it the longest single-room library in Europe. It houses over 200,000 of the college's ancient books and over 7 million pieces of printed materials. For obvious reasons, it has been nicknamed the Harry Potter Library. Make sure you see our individual video from here as well. Number 6, the Book of Kells. Although the Book of Kells is housed at Trinity College, its magnificence is deserving of its own spot on the countdown. The Book of Kells was written around the year 800, 1200 years ago, and contains summaries of the Gospels of Jesus Christ, and is written in Latin. It is ornately decorated with figures of Celtic knots, designs, humans, animals, and mythical creatures. Its beauty has caused it to be called the work of angels. Contained in the book are 340 leaves, or folios in Latin, which are left side and right side pages of an open book. The Book of Kells has withstood dozens of invasions and conflicts by Vikings and English Protestants and has survived them all. There are a handful of books that have survived to this day that are similar to the Book of Kells, but none of them so beautifully decorated. Trinity College has an excellent exhibit where you can learn all about this treasure, and you can even see the book with your own eyes, but no photography is allowed. Today, the Book of Kells is a symbol of national Irish pride and one of the country's most sacred historical objects. Be sure to see our individual video from here too. Number 5, the CLATA. Love, loyalty, and friendship. Those three powerful words make up the meaning of the ring worn throughout 5 different centuries by millions of Irish and those of us with Celtic ancestry. Even if you haven't had one yourself, chances are you have seen someone wearing one, or at least seen the image somewhere. It has become a fashionable way to celebrate one's heritage and pride of their Celtic roots. It is surprising that even with the ring's popularity, very few know the origin of the ring and where it came from. The ring sprung into existence around the year 1700 out of an ancient small fishing village outside the city walls of Galway. The legend tells of Richard Joyce, who was betrothed to soon be married, but was captured by North African pirates and spent 14 years as a slave of a jewelry maker. He used his newfound skills to fashion a ring for his love at home, and when he was released, he returned to CLATA and married her with his ring. That ring now is all over the globe, and you can walk the shores of where it all began. Be sure to see our individual video from here at the CLATA. Number 4, the Korb Heritage Center. Anyone with Irish ancestry will find the Korb Heritage Center a moving experience. Here the story of Irish immigration is told in powerful detail. Ireland has seen several waves of immigration and to this day still hasn't reached its population from the early 1800s. While it is not uncommon for Irish to immigrate in the same fashion as folks from other countries did, it certainly must be mentioned that millions of Irish left Ireland against their will as slaves or forced indentured servants. The center is located in a former train station along Cork Harbour, where more Irish left than any other port and viewed Paddy's Green Shamrock Shore for the last time. The center has an on-site genealogist on staff that can help you with those difficult ancestry searches. Besides being a key location of the diaspora of the Irish people, it was also the last port of call before the Titanic sailed off into the Atlantic and met its fateful doom. Visiting the Korb Heritage Center will leave you with a sobering understanding of what your ancestors went through to start a new life in the new world. Make sure you see our individual video from here as well. Number 3, Blarney Castle. Blarney Castle is one of the most popular castles in the world, and certainly in Ireland. Its magical mysticism and legends draw us into its colorful history, making it a place of pilgrimage over the ages just to share in its blessings. The castle is associated with fairies, witches, biblical characters, royalty, medieval battles, knights, dungeons, poison gardens, and more. Its picturesque beauty and majesty have made it one of the most popular places to visit in all of Ireland. The castle is most known for its famous Blarney Stone, which legend states that if you kiss it while hanging upside down, you will be blessed with the gift of eloquence, or the gift of gab. There are many legends about what the stone is and where it came from, which adds to its nostalgia. Few places on earth allow you to roam around freely and imagine yourself in another time in history like Blarney Castle does. Definitely be sure to see our individual video from here. Number 2, the Cliffs of Moher. My wife Stephanie said that the Cliffs of Moher was the most spiritual place that she had ever been. Words are hard to find to describe the majesty of these cliffs that are situated in County Clare on the edge of Europe. The cliffs run for about 14 miles and range from 390 feet to about 702 feet above the ocean below. The cliffs are often the scene of wedding proposals. Romantic kisses, and family photos. And of course, flex pictures. The Cliffs have a very informative and well-done museum and interpretive center where you can learn about the history, biology, and ecology of this unique area. This site is one of the most visited places in all of Ireland, with more than 1.5 million visitors every year. Words, pictures, and videos simply cannot describe the power of seeing the Cliffs of Moher with your own eyes. We've reached number 1. Remember, I told you earlier about a surprise ending, and this isn't it. This is number 1, so be sure to stick around to see the surprise ending. Number 1, St. Patrick's Cathedral. It is said that around the year 450 AD, over 1,500 years ago, St. Patrick himself baptized Irish converts in a spring on this spot. This 800-year-old cathedral has been declared the National Cathedral of Ireland, and with just one visit and a little understanding of its history, it will leave you with very little doubt as to why. The first documented mention of a church here was in the year 1178, but it is believed that a church has been here long before then. Construction on the cathedral began in 1220, and its story is full of important events from Irish history. It is estimated that between 600 to 700 souls are entombed inside or buried outside the cathedral. The walls are lined with monuments and statues of important people throughout Dublin's history. One of the most unique things about the cathedral is above the choir stalls. There you will find the helmets, swords, and flags of the Knights of St. Patrick. The cathedral was totally remodeled in the 1860s with funding provided by Sir Benjamin Guinness, the heir to the Guinness brewing empire. During that renovation, the stained glass windows were added, as well as the medieval-style floor tiles. Outside the cathedral is St. Patrick's Park, which holds the literary parade that was built in 1988, the 1000th anniversary of the city of Dublin. Along the wall are the shrines of 12 literary giants from Dublin, each of them having had an impact on the world. Many say visiting this cathedral gives them the feeling of being in the presence of God Almighty, and that alone makes it a place you don't want to miss out on visiting. Be sure to see our individual video from here as well. Bonus: the place of your ancestors. For those of us with Irish ancestry, no place in Ireland can be so exciting and rewarding than visiting the towns, glens, counties, and cemeteries where our ancestors came from. Many have used the word spiritual when it comes to visiting these places. When you make these journeys, you get a better understanding of the world they lived in and why they made the decision to immigrate. I have to admit that even though I'm aware of my ancestors and who they are, for me, the experience was surreal. Seeing your own surname in the cemeteries and knowing that your DNA has been in a certain area is unbelievably powerful. Many that do genealogy describe similar experiences when visiting sites in the United States where their ancestors lived. But going to places like this in their country of origin is on a totally different level. It's certainly hard to put into words, and I am forever changed by the experience. Be sure to see our individual video of my journey to the home of my Irish ancestors. So that was it, our top 40 of the must-sees in Ireland. What do you think? Do you agree? Or do you disagree? Did we leave something out? We'd love to hear from you in the comments below. We are extremely proud to have brought you on this epic journey to all these wonderful historic sites. Don't forget to subscribe and let us know where you'd like to see us go next in our videos. And remember, family tree nuts, let our nuts find the nuts in your family tree.